Hare Krishna, am I audible?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes. Loud and clear. Yeah, everything can be seen.
Wait, I need to. I'll check the streaming.
Screening.
Streaming. Is it streaming on YouTube?
Yes. I just saw the thing is streaming on YouTube. Live. Mama. It's streaming now. It's YouTube live.
Okay. So my slide is visible, right?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. So we'll start with the Mangalacharan. Om Ajnana Timrantasya Jnana Jana Shalakaya Chakshuruniltamena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah Sri Chaitanya Mano Vishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Upagadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeyam Sri Guru Sri Udapatakalam Sri Guru Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathan Vitam Stamsa Jivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Paljan Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Sri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusde Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, thanks for joining today's session. Today's topic is titled Time, Kāla or Eternal Time. So, as we know, it is stated in the intro section to Bhagavad Gita that there are 5 principal subject matters which is covered in the Bhagavad Gita. It is explained by Prabhupada in the introduction to Gita. So the 5 subject matters are Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti, Kāla, Karma. So Kāla, time, is one of the subject matters, one out of the 5 subject matters. So in the intro section of Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada explains. So in the Bhagavad Gita deals with the 5 subject matters. Time is the duration of existence of the whole universe or the manifestation of material nature. So this time factor is something that is related to the manifestation of material nature, meaning that it is closely related to our existence within this material world. We exist in this material world, and therefore we are bound by this time factor. We are subject to this time factor, and therefore even our present life and all our previous lives, we have been bound by this time factor, and that's why we are constantly stuck in this incessant cycle of Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi. In chapter 15 of the Gita, the first verse, it is stated in the first verse of chapter 15, Krishna says, Pulto Mula Madashakam Ashwatam Praurayam Chandam Siyasya Parnani Yastam Veda Savedavid. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, it is said that there is an imperishable banyan tree that has its roots upward and its branches down, and whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. One who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. So this imperishable banyan tree, which has its roots upward and branches down, is actually referring to the perverted reflection of the material world. Not just in this verse, in few of the subsequent verses, it talks about how this material world is a completely perverted reflection, a reverse of the spiritual world. So from verse 1 to verse 5, the description is regarding this perverted reflection of the material world, how the material world is exactly a reflection of the spiritual world. Then in verse 6 of chapter 15, it talks about how the spiritual world is actually different from the material world. In the 6th verse of chapter 15, Krishna says, Natat Vasayate Suryo Nasashanko Napaka Yad Gatva Na Nivartanti Tadnama Paramama. So starting from that verse, Krishna talks about the characteristics of the spiritual world, which we will find to be the exact opposite of what Krishna describes as the characteristics of the material world. So whatever we are seeing in this material world is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. And since we are bound by the time factor in this material world, it is the exact opposite in the spiritual world. Then in the same section, in the intro section of Gita, Prabhupada also explains regarding this concept of eternity or the eternal dharma. When we talk about the eternal characteristic, something that is eternal is not bound by time. We as living entities, as conditioned souls who are trapped in this material world, we are bound by this time factor because we are encased within this material body. We are actually spirit souls who are encased in this material body, and therefore we are subject to this time factor. But our original identity is that we are all eternal spirit souls. From the moment we are born, meaning that birth in this material world simply means that it refers to the time when we got a specific form of material body. Out of the 84 lakh forms of material bodies, we get a certain material body for a certain period of time. And then once we leave that particular type of material body, then depending on our karmas, it will be decided whether we get yet another material body, whether it's a degraded one or a more advanced one, or whether we regain our spiritual transcendental body. It all depends on what we do in our present life. So Prabhupada also explains regarding this concept of eternity and eternal dharma. The Supreme Lord and his transcendental abode are both Sanatana, as are the living entities. The word Sanatana means eternal. And the combined association of the Supreme Lord and the living entities in the Sanatana abode is the perfection of human life. So we also spoke about in our Bhagavatam class on Tuesday, we also spoke about what true success actually means. Whatever we achieve in our material life in the name of success, it is all going to be nullified the moment we leave this particular material body. So since we have got this human form of life, true success means to regain the association of the Supreme Lord in his spiritual abode. That is the perfection of human life. That is true success. Therefore, the Lord descends to reclaim all of these fallen conditioned souls, to call them back to the Sanatana eternal sky, so that the Sanatana living entities may regain their eternal Sanatana positions in eternal association with the Lord. So just because we are trapped in this material world, we are always subject to this time factor. But we will be liberated from this influence of time once we go back to the spiritual abode, because that is our eternal position, eternal constitutional position. Also in chapter 15, verse number 7, Krishna says, Mamai Vamso Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, Manashastan Indriyani Prakristani Karshati. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the 6 senses, which include the mind. So here Krishna is confirming the fact that we are all eternal fragmental parts of the Supreme Brahman. We also had a session in one of our previous Friday sessions. There was this topic titled Supreme Brahman, Param Brahma. So in that topic, we saw regarding the concept of Brahman and how we as individual living entities, we are also Brahman, but we are individual Brahman, we are Jiva Brahmans. The Supreme Lord is the Param Brahman. And there's also this Mahad Brahma, meaning the material nature. So there are certain distinct factors which distinguish between us and the Supreme Lord. Normally in many other schools of thought, they say that they actually misinterpret the verses like Aham Brahmasmi. Aham Brahmasmi simply means that we are parts and parcels of the Supreme Brahman. It doesn't mean that we are equal to the Supreme Brahman. When we are parts and parcels of the Supreme Brahman, we are merely like drops of salt water in the ocean, or we are like particles of gold in the entire gold mine. The gold mine and the ocean represent the Supreme Lord. We are merely particles. So Krishna says that we are eternal fragmental parts. And this is also another crucial point we noted. When Krishna says that we are eternal fragmental parts, he is demolishing all the other notions proposed by the other schools of thought who talk about merging into the Supreme Brahman. Because here Krishna says that we are eternal fragmental parts, meaning that we have been fragmented parts from the beginning, and we will remain like that. We will retain our individual positions as the fragmental parts of the Supreme Brahman. So that also demolishes the notion of this merging into the Supreme Brahman or separating from him to come to this material world. There's no such thing. We have always been eternal fragmental parts. So Krishna also says that we as individual spirit souls, originally our characteristic is that we are eternal. But since we are trapped in these material bodies, we have been encaged in the 84 lakh types of material bodies, and therefore we are being subject to the time factor and also these material modes of nature and many other factors. We have been this material body actually encages our original identity to the point where we are subject to so many factors of the inferior energy of the Supreme Lord. And therefore, Krishna himself also says that due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. So we are trapped in this material world due to our propensity, our material desires to enjoy. And since we are unable to control the urge for our sense gratification, that's why all our senses dominate our mind, intelligence, and our soul. There's also this, we have seen the picture of Krishna and Arjuna on the chariot with the horses. So the essence of Gita is also often explained according to that analogy, where the horses represent the senses, the reins are represent the mind, the charioteer is the intelligence, and the person sitting on the chariot is the soul. So as long as the control is from top down, there's no problem. The trouble starts when it's in the reverse direction, from bottom up. When the horses, they get agitated, meaning our senses, so everything happens in the opposite direction. So we lose our intelligence and the soul becomes subject to all the other subservient factors. By right, our intelligence and soul, the soul should be the controller of the mind and senses. So that's what Krishna also says. Our position is that we are eternal spirit souls, but we are now trapped in this degraded condition due to our conditioned lifestyle. We are, due to our material desires, we are struggling with all these, with the six senses, including the mind. So, in Sanatan Dharma, at the core of Sanatan Dharma is to recognize the position of the eternal spirit soul. It is all about the relationship between the individual spirit soul and the super soul, or the supreme personality of Godhead. Of course, super soul, Paramatma, is also a partial realization of Bhagavan. Bhagavan realization is the most complete one. Paramatma is still a partial realization, but ultimately it's all about regaining our eternal position as servants of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, Sanatana Dharma does not refer to any sectarian process of religion. It is the eternal function of the eternal living entities in relationship with the eternal Supreme Lord. If we note this verse in 15.7 of the Gita, Krishna says, Mamaivamso Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. Krishna uses the word Jiva here, meaning the eternal living entities. It considers all forms of living entities. It is not just restricted to human beings. It actually refers to all the living entities, because even cats and dogs who are encased within those material bodies, they are also spirit souls. It's just that their consciousness is such that they are restricted to that degraded position. However, Krishna views all the spirit souls equally, and therefore he himself is very anxious to regain our association. Sanatan Dharma, according to our acharyas, it means that eternal occupation of the living entity. Sripad Ramanujacharya has explained the word Sanatana as that which has neither beginning nor end. So it is stated that Sanatan Dharma is not a sectarian religion. There's no comparison between Sanatan Dharma and the other forms of religion, because Dharma covers all forms of living entities. It is not just restricted to human beings. It is about the relationship between all living entities and the Supreme Lord. So that's why it is not sectarian. And according to our acharyas, they define the word Sanatana as that which has neither beginning nor end. This itself has a very deep meaning, which is also explained in depth by Srila Prabhupada. Sanatana means that which has neither beginning nor end. The English word religion is a little different from Sanatana Dharma. Religion conveys the idea of faith, and faith may change. Of course, we see so many people changing their religion for various reasons, but Dharma is something that does not change, and that's why it is called Sanatana Dharma, the eternal Dharma. Sanatana Dharma is eternally integral with the living entity. That which has neither end nor beginning must not be sectarian, for it cannot be limited by any boundaries. So Dharma is not sectarian. It is not restricted to merely to human beings, because this human form of life is just a subset of the 84 lakh species. So all living entities who are encased within the 84 lakh species, they are all Sanatan, meaning they are all eternal spirit souls. So this Sanatan Dharma also applies to them. It applies to all living entities. Those belonging to some sectarian faith will wrongly consider that Sanatana Dharma is also sectarian. But if we go deeply into the matter and consider it in the light of modern science, it is possible for us to see that Sanatana Dharma is the business of all people of the world, meaning all living entities, not restricted to just human beings. But we can clearly see that whenever people talk about the concept of religion, it is often restricted to human beings. So that's why there is no comparison between the concept of Sanatana Dharma and all other religions. Also, it is stated that non-Sanatana religious faith may have some beginning in the annals of human history, but there is no beginning to the history of Sanatana Dharma because it remains eternally with the living entities. This is what has been defined by Sripad Ramanujacharya, as we saw previously. The Acharyas define Sanatana Dharma as that which has neither beginning nor end. So it simply means that it has been existing eternally, and regardless of the fact that very often people tend to label Sanatana Dharma with this tag of Hinduism, none of these intellectuals are able to give the exact birth date for Hinduism because it cannot be traced by anyone. It is Sanatan, it is eternal, unlike all the other religions which have a certain date of birth. So that's why Dharma cannot be compared to religion. It is eternal and it applies to all living entities. And the reason why I'm explaining regarding this concept of eternal Dharma is because this is what distinguishes us. It actually it refers to our original identity. We are eternal spirit souls, but and according to our original identity as eternal spirit souls, we are not supposed to be bound by the time factor. But since we are trapped in these material bodies within this material universe, therefore we are being subject to this time factor. But our original identity is that we are all eternal spirit souls, just like the Supreme Lord. We also have our Satchidananda Vigraha features, but of course, we have the qualitative similarity with the Supreme Lord, not quantitative. We are qualitatively similar to the Supreme Lord. But our original identity is that we are also eternal, but still we are trapped in this repeated cycle of Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi according to the cycles of time because we are encased within these material bodies. Otherwise, our original identity is that we are eternal spirit souls. In the Gita also, it is stated that the living entity is never born and he never dies. In reference to the concept of Sanatana Dharma, we must try to understand the concept of religion from the Sanskrit root meaning of the word. Dharma refers to that which is constantly existing with a particular object. For example, heat and light is there along with the fire eternally. It is the eternal characteristic of fire. Without heat and light, there's no meaning to fire. Fire serves no purpose without its eternal characteristic. Similarly, we must discover the essential part of the living being, that part which is his constant companion. That constant companion is his eternal quality, and that eternal quality is his eternal religion. Meaning, eternal religion, again, the word religion does not mean religion in the so-called modern context. It refers to our eternal occupation as eternal servants of the Supreme Lord. So in Sanatana Dharma, we are merely focused on our regaining our eternal position, our eternal constitution position with the Supreme Lord. That is our only business. So in Gita 2.20, Krishna says, Na jayate mriyate va kadachin, nayam bhutva bhavitava na bhuya, ajo nitya shashvatayam purano, na hanyate hanyamane sharire. For the soul, there's neither birth nor death at any time. So birth in this material world merely refers to a time when we take up a specific material body. And the moment we leave that material body, that is stated, that is termed as death. But there's no birth or death for the spirit soul. So the soul has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. So these are the identify ourselves with the material body, but the purpose of Krishna consciousness is to regain our Sanatana Dharma, for which the first step is to identify ourselves as spirit souls who are supposed to be eternal servants of the Supreme Lord. Also, we saw regarding the definition of Dharma, in Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 2, verse number 6, it's also stated, Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhakti radoksaje aituki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. The supreme occupation, dharma, for all humanity is that by which man can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. So our supreme occupation, that which can satisfy ourselves, is to be eternal servants of the Supreme Lord. But due to our material desires, we are trapped in this material body, in this material world, and therefore we are being subjected to the time factor, which puts us in a completely opposite position to which is completely the opposite of what we are supposed to be. We are supposed to be eternal spirit souls who are not bound by the time factor, but due to our material desires, since we are trapped in this material world, we are being bound by the time factor. And as we shall see later, every moment the saw of time is cutting our life. So before we proceed to the actual time factor, there are also other matters that we have to consider. Especially these are very relevant to us as Kali Jivas. In the 10th verse of the first chapter of Bhagavatam, it is stated, Prayanal Paisha Sabya Kalavasmin Yuge Jana Manda Sumanda Mateo Manda Bhagyahi Upadruta. O learned one, in this iron age of Kali, men almost always have but short lives. They are quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. So the most important part to be noted here is that in Kali Yuga, we all have very short lives. So this itself is the main significance. It shows the importance of why we need to learn about the importance of making use of our time, about how to get the most out of our time. Because we as Kali Jivas, our lifespan is already very short. So since we have gained this human form of life, it even makes it more important for us to salvage every moment to engage in devotional service, so that we can achieve true success in this human form of life. Also in the 7th canto of Bhagavatam, there's this explanation regarding how the human form of life, which is often estimated to be a maximum of 100 years, especially for us in this Kali Yuga, even 100 years is not enough for us to be devoted in devotional service. It is explained in this verse. In the tender age of childhood, when everyone is bewildered, one passes 10 years. Similarly, in boyhood, engaged in sporting and playing, one passes another 10 years. In this way, 20 years are wasted. So during the first 20 years of our lifetime, we are very immature. So we are not able to appreciate Krishna consciousness. We are not able to truly understand the importance of devotional service, unless for some people who are born in the family of devotees, they have the advantage of being practicing Krishna consciousness from a very early age itself. For them, they have the advantage, but otherwise, most of the fallen souls of Kali Yuga belong to this category, who are forced to waste the first 20 years of their lives. So in this way, the first 20 years are wasted. Similarly, in old age, when one is an invalid, unable to perform even material activities, one passes another 20 years wastefully. So during the last 20 years of our life, we will be suffering from various diseases, or due to old age, our senses become exhausted. We are not able to read scriptures, and we won't be able to perform many other services. So even during the last 20 years of our age, we'll be struggling to perform devotional service. So the first 20 years is wasted, and the last 20 years is also wasted. 40 years gone, just like that. We only have the 60 years in the middle. So this is the summary of the human lifespan, especially this is applicable to us in Kali Yuga. We lose the first 20 years of our life due to immaturity, and during the last 20 years, we are not able to perform many activities due to our old age and diseases. So the 60 years in the middle is very crucial. However, if we observe carefully, out of the 60 years, we'll be spending half the time for sleeping and other recreational activities, leisure activities. So we only have 30 years to be seriously engaged in devotional service. So we can also look at it from another perspective. Out of our 100 years of existence, half the time goes for sleeping and other leisure activities. So we only have 50 years of productive time. So out of those 50 years, somehow we can only optimize up to 30 years for devotional service. And if we are not serious, we won't be able to get anywhere near those 30 years. So that's why it is very important for us to understand the significance of this time factor, especially for us as the fallen Kali Jivas with a very short span of lifetime. Now, here's the bad news. Though it is stated in the scriptures that generally in Satya Yuga, people used to live up to 100,000 years. Then it kept reducing to 100 years in Kali Yuga. However, it is also stated in the second chapter of the 12th canto that as Kali Yuga advances in the negative sense, meaning when it reaches full-blown Kali Yuga, ultimately, even to reach 100 years will be a problem. The maximum duration of life for human beings in Kali Yuga will become 50 years. When it becomes like full-blown Kali Yuga. But I guess we are already seeing this nowadays, where people are struggling to celebrate to their 50th birthday. A lot of people are forced to leave once they reach the age of 40. And all these are happening despite so much of so-called modern scientific developments, especially in the field of healthcare. All these degradations are happening despite all these so-called developments in healthcare. Apart from that, there's also this very important verse spoken by Prahlad Maharaj in the 7th canto. We know that Prahlad Maharaj received instructions from Narada Muni when he was in the womb of his mother. We belong to the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, which starts from Krishna, followed by Brahma, followed by Narada Muni, Vyasa, Madhva. So Prahlad Maharaj also received instructions from one of our foremost acharyas, Narada Muni. So what Prahlad Maharaj says is also very important to be noted by us who belong to the same Sampradaya. In this verse, Prahlad Maharaj says, one who is sufficiently intelligent should use the human form of body from the very beginning of life. In other words, from the tender age of childhood to practice the activities of devotional service, giving up all other engagements. The human body is most rarely achieved, and although temporary like other bodies, it is meaningful because in human life, one can perform devotional service. Even a slight amount of sincere devotional service can give one complete perfection. Even in the 3rd canto, as we have seen in our previous sessions, even Lord Brahma talks about how human beings have a very distinct advantage to engage in devotional service and to be liberated straight away to the supreme abode. So despite the fact that Lord Brahma and the other highly elevated sages, despite the fact that they belong to the higher planets like Marjana Tapa and Satyaloka, they themselves acknowledge that we as human beings, we have the advantage of being elevated straight to the supreme abode without having to go through all the other upper planets. So we have that advantage. And here Prahlad Maharaj emphasizes the importance of using our human form of life to practice devotional service from the very tender age, because we already saw how fragile is our life, even when we view it from the context of having a maximum duration of 100 years. Even if we have, if we get to live for 100 years, we only have a maximum of 30 years to engage in devotional service very seriously. So the earlier we start, the better. So for those who are in middle age, there's no point in dwelling in the past. So we just have to further intensify our sadhana to make up for the losses in the past. But the more important thing to be noted here is that we should not let the younger generation repeat our mistake. We must make sure that our younger generation get to be engaged in devotional service from a very young age, as advised by Prahlad Maharaj. So it is also worth noting that only in our community, many of our beloved Sanatani brothers and sisters tend to have this impression that the Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam and other scriptures are meant to be studied by those who have reached retirement age. There's this, unfortunately, there's this huge misconception. So we can actually learn a lot from other communities, regardless of what their religious books say. At least they have this, they are intelligent enough to know the importance of cultivating devotional service among children. They send their children for religious studies from a very young age itself. They make sure that their children complete their religious studies from very young age. Only in our community, our beloved Sanatani brothers and sisters have this huge misconception that the Gita is only meant to be studied by those who are in retirement age. What is the point of studying the Gita when you are going to meet death at any time? The Gita is supposed to be studied for us to practice Krishna consciousness throughout our life. It is not something to be studied when you're going to meet death at any moment. Of course, it is true that death could stare at our face at any moment in our life, but that itself is a further reaffirmation about the importance of studying the Gita from a very young age. So this misconception that only aged people should study the Gita should be completely obliterated from the minds of our beloved Sanatani brothers and sisters. We should follow this precious advice of Prahlad Maharaj. And apart from that, there's also this important verse spoken by Krishna himself in Gita 8.15. Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram yaprayati samadbhavam yati nashtyatya samsaya. And whoever at the end of his life quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this, there's no doubt. So this is another very important aspect in bhakti, which talks about the importance of time. We are, our position is so fallen, especially in Kali Yuga, that regardless of the fact that we may live up to 100 years or even 50 years, but even that, there's no guarantee for us to celebrate even our 50th birthday nowadays, despite all these so-called scientific advancements in the field of healthcare. So it is even more important for us to start practicing Krishna consciousness from our young age itself. And it is also important to be completely absorbed in the practice so that we will be able to remember Krishna at the time of death, meaning when it comes to our final exam. So Prabhupada explains in the purport, anyone who quits his body in Krishna consciousness is at once transferred to the transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord. The word smaran, remembering, is important. Remembrance of Krishna is not possible for the impure soul who has not practiced Krishna consciousness in devotional service. So we can only remember Krishna at the time of death if we remember him throughout our life. So there's no point in thinking that we can wait for our retirement life to study the Gita. By the time someone who is in retirement age, when that person reads this particular verse in 8.5, only then that person will be having unnecessary anxiety. So that's why it is important to ensure that even our younger generations, they should be trained in studying all these important messages from our scriptures so that they can lead their lives according to how our acharyas have preached in the past. Not just our acharyas, even Krishna has mentioned that it is important to always remember him. So unless we start practicing from a very young age, it is not possible to remember Krishna when we are about to leave our body. Now, regarding how we should practice, Lord Chaitanya has advised that one be as tolerant as a tree, Tarurapi Saishnuna. There may be so many impediments for a person who is chanting Hare Krishna. Not just for a person who is chanting Hare Krishna, it applies to our practice of Krishna consciousness in general. There will be so many impediments when we are sincerely trying to practice. Nonetheless, tolerating all these impediments, one should continue to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, so that at the end of one's life, one can have the full benefit of Krishna consciousness. Okay, so far we have seen the bhakti aspects of time. Now is the actual core content of our session today. This is regarding the measurement of time. So we are living in different Divya Yugas. The Divya Yuga or Chatur Yuga refers to this cycle of 4 yugas, beginning from Satya, Treta, Dwapara, Kali. So now we are in Kali Yuga. After this, the end of this Kali Yuga, another cycle starts. So like that, the cycle continues. And this is actually the hierarchy of the time units. Below Divya Yugas, we have the years, months, days, and all that. So the repetition of Divya Yugas, whenever it reaches 71 Divya Yugas, it forms one Manvantara. One Manvantara refers to the reign of one Manu. So every Manu rules for 71 Divya Yugas or Chatur Yugas. And therefore, during each Kalpa or day of Brahma, there are 14 Manvantaras. So there are 14 Manus in each day of Brahma or Kalpa. Beyond the Kalpa is the life of Brahma. So the Kalpa is actually the day of Brahma. Brahma also has his months, years, and up to he lives up to 100 years according to the calendar of Brahma. Now the explanation regarding calculation of time is there in the 11th chapter of the 3rd canto. So this is actually the core content of today's session regarding the calculation of time. This chapter, chapter 11 of the 3rd canto, is titled Calculation of Time from Atom. So the two are actually interrelated, time and atom. So the first few verses explain regarding how the calculation of time is based on the atomic theory. So the first verse, it is stated, the material manifestations ultimate particle, which is indivisible and not formed into a body, is called the atom. It exists always as an invisible identity, even after the dissolution of all forms. The material body is but a combination of such atoms, but it is misunderstood by the common man. As we saw earlier in the introduction to Gita, there was this definition of time. Time has been defined as something which spans over this material manifestation. So this material nature is all about matter. The material nature consists of matter. That is the meaning that even in our previous sessions, when we saw regarding this Prakriti and also the material elements, the 24 material elements, this entire material universe is composed of the 24 material elements, the raw materials. So the time factor is also related to this material manifestation. So when we look at the single most indivisible, the smallest unit of matter, it is the atom. The atomic description of Srimad Bhagavatam is almost the same as the modern science of atomism, and this is further described in the Paramanuvada of Kannada. That is the author of Paramanuvada. In modern science also, the atom is accepted as the ultimate indivisible particle of which the universe is composed. So the material universe is called material simply because it is composed of matter, and the smallest unit of matter is atom. Srimad Bhagavatam is the full text of all descriptions of knowledge, including the theory of atomism. The atom is the minute, subtle form of eternal time. Atoms are the ultimate state of the manifest universe. When they stay in their own forms without forming different bodies, they are called the unlimited oneness. So the entire manifestation is formed when all these small units merge together to make up bigger units. One can estimate time by measuring the movement of atomic combinations of bodies. Time is the potency of the Almighty Personality of Godhead, Hari, who controls all physical movement, although he is not visible in the physical world. Atomic time is measured according to its covering a particular atomic space. That time which covers the unmanifest aggregate of atoms is called the great time. So the easiest way to understand this is based on the analogy of this hourglass timer. The hourglass works by measuring time in such a way that we measure time according to how long it takes for the sand particles to fill up the vacant space. Similarly, in the theory of atomism, the sand particles are equated to atoms. So based on the perspective of the atomic theory, time is measured based on how long it takes for all these small atoms to combine and make up bigger material elements. So this is the simplest analogy to understand the relationship between atomic theory and how it is related to the measurement of time. So time and space are two correlative terms. Time is measured in terms of its covering a certain space of atoms. The division of gross time is calculated as follows. 2 atoms make one double atom, and 3 double atoms make one hexaatom. This hexaatom is visible in the sunshine, which enters through the holes of a window screen. One can clearly see that the hexaatom goes up towards the sky. So this hexaatom is big enough for us to see directly, and therefore this hexaatom, the time taken to form this hexaatom is measured as the smallest unit of time. The atom is described as an invisible particle, but when 6 such atoms combined together. They are called a Trasarenu, and this is visible in the sunshine pouring through the holes of a window screen. So the hexaatom is big enough for us to see directly. And that hexaatom, the time taken to form that hexaatom is what is called the smallest unit of time. It is termed as Tuti. 100 Tutis make up one Veda. This is mentioned in the 6th verse. And then 3 Vedas form one Lava. So these are all the units of time measurement mentioned in the Bhagavatam. The smallest unit of time measurement is Truti. 1 Truti is the amount of time taken to form one hexaatom. So 100 Trutis make up one Veda. 3 Vedas make up one Lava. 3 Lavas are equal to 1 Nimesha. 3 Nimeshas form 1 Shana. 5 Shanas form 1 Kashta. 15 Kashtas form 1 Lagu. It is calculated that if a second is divided into 1687.5 parts, each part is the duration of Truti. So Truti is the smallest unit of time in Bhagavatam. So 100 Trutis make up one Veda. So 1 Truti is actually 1 second divided by 1687.5. So 1 Veda is actually equal to 0.06 seconds. 3 Vedas form 1 Lava. So 1 Lava is equal to 0.18 seconds. 3 Lavas form 1 Nimesha. So 1 Nimesha is equal to 0.54 seconds. 3 Nimeshas is equal to 1 Shana. So 1 Shana is equal to 1.62 seconds. 5 Shanas form 1 Kashta. So it is equal to 8.1 seconds. 15 Kashtas are equal to 1 Lagu, which is equal to 125.5 seconds. So 1 Lagu is approximately equal to 2 minutes. So it is stated in the purport. By calculation, it is found that 1 Lagu is equal to 2 minutes. The atomic calculation of time in terms of Vedic wisdom may be converted into present time with this understanding. So we have seen how the units of time in Bhagavatam can be converted into the modern units. 1 Lagu is approximately equal to 2 minutes. Then in the subsequent verses also it's mentioned 15 Lagus is equal to 1 Nadika or Danda. 2 Dandas are equal to 1 Murta. 6 or 7 Dandas form 1/4 of a day or night, meaning 1/4 of the period of 12 hours. So 15 Lagus are equal to 1 Nadika or Danda. So 15 times 2 minutes, meaning 1 Danda is equal to approximately equal to 30 minutes. So 2 Dandas form 1 Murta. From 2 Dandas, they form 1 Murta. Then 6 Dandas form 1/4 of a day or night. So 2 Dandas equal to 1 hour. Then 6 Dandas are equal to 3 hours, meaning 1/4 of 12 hours. So these are the, we have seen how it progresses as we measure from the Truti. This is how it progresses upwards from seconds to minutes to hours, and also to the measurement of days and nights. It is calculated that there are 4 praharas, which are also called yamas, in the day and 4 in the night of the human being. Similarly, 15 days and nights are a fortnight, and there are 2 fortnights, white and black, in a month. So these are known as the pakshas. So the 2 fortnights are the 2 pakshas, Shukla and Krishna Paksha, meaning Shukla Paksha refers to the waxing moon, and Krishna Paksha, the waning moon, the 2 fortnights. The aggregate of 2 fortnights is 1 month, and that period is 1 complete day and night for the Pita planets. 2 of such months comprise 1 season. So every season consists of 2 months, and 6 months comprise 1 complete movement of the sun. from south to north. So there are two movements of the sun in the period of one whole year. So from south to north, that is 6 months, and there's another period of 6 months for the complete solar movement. The solar movement is known as Uttarayana and Dakshinayana, and Krishna also talks about these time periods in the 8th chapter. In 8.23, Krishna says, "O best of the Bharatas, I shall now explain to you the different times at which, passing away from this world, the yogi does or does not come back. Those who know the Supreme Brahman attain that Supreme by passing away from the world during the influence of the fiery god in the light at an auspicious moment of the day, during the fortnight of the waxing moon, or during the 6 months when the sun travels in the north. That is the period known as Uttarayana." Then in 8.25, Krishna says, "The mystic who passes away from this world during the smoke, the night, the fortnight of the waning moon, or the 6 months when the sun passes to the south, meaning Dakshinayana, reaches the moon planet, but again comes back." So in summary, in 8.26, Krishna summarizes the previous two verses. According to Vedic opinion, there are two ways of passing from this world, one in light and one in darkness. When one passes in light, he does not come back, but when one passes in darkness, he returns. So just an additional info, we all know that Srila Prabhupada's day of disappearance is on the 4th day after Deepavali. We celebrate Deepavali on the day of Kartik Amavasya, meaning the last day, the day 15 of the waning moon of the month of Kartik. So 4 days after that, meaning on the tithi of Kartik Shukla Chaturthi, is the day of Prabhupada's disappearance. So Prabhupada actually left during the Shukla Paksha period. So even based on Krishna's description, he himself says that when one passes away in light, meaning in periods like the Shukla Paksha, the person does not come back. Then in chapter 11 of 3rd canto, it is also stated, two solar movements make one day and night for the demigods. That combination of day and night is one complete calendar for the human being. The human being has a duration of life of 100 years. So up to our level, and also for the demigods, for our level, it is up to 100 years. But the demigods, their calendar is actually like in multiples of our calendar. Roughly one year of the demigod is actually 360 times our calendar. Then it is also stated regarding how the Supreme Lord represents eternal time, because the entire material manifestation operates according to his instructions. Even when we were discussing regarding our Madhya Loka topic, when we saw descriptions regarding the sun, moon, and all the other planets, it was stated that the sun himself is working under the directions of Surya Narayana, that is the form of Narayana who resides in the sun. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated that the sun is the eye of the Supreme and it rotates in its particular orbit of time. Similarly, beginning from the sun down to the atom, all bodies are under the influence of the Kāla chakra, or the orbit of eternal time, and each of them has a scheduled orbital time of 1 samvatsara. However, the one who controls eternal time itself is the Supreme Lord. So the Supreme Lord is also the personification of time. And that is what Krishna also says in chapter 10 of the Gita, in Vibhuti Yoga. Krishna says in 10.30, among the Daitya demons, I am the devoted Prahlad. Among subduers, I am time. Among beasts, I am the lion. And among birds, I am Garuda. Krishna says, among subduers, I am time. There are many subduing principles, but time wears down all things in the material universe, and so represents Krishna. So even for the so-called atheists who deny the existence of God, they can never deny the existence of time. They can never say that they are not being subject to the factor of time. They themselves know that they are getting weighed down by the factor of time. So even if they try to deny the existence of God, they can never deny the influence of time, which is nothing but the personification. Time personified is actually the Supreme Lord. Again, in 10.33, Krishna says, I'm also inexhaustible time. Among all kinds of killers, time is the ultimate because time kills everything. Time is the representative of Krishna because in due course of time, there will be a great fire and everything will be annihilated. So this is referring to the end of the life cycle of Brahma when the great dissolution happens. During Brahma's lifespan itself, every time whenever the night of Brahma arrives, there's only partial dissolution, meaning that a part of the planetary systems become unmanifest, but still Brahma stays alive in his abode. But at the end of Brahma's life, there's this complete dissolution which happens. In 10.34, Krishna says, I'm all devouring death. As soon as a man is born, he dies at every moment. This is something which even the so-called atheists cannot deny. That death is Krishna. As for future development, all living entities undergo 6 basic changes. They are born, they grow, they remain for some time, they reproduce, they dwindle, and finally they vanish. So, due to false ego, even the so-called atheists won't acknowledge this fact, but even they will have to meet Krishna in the form of death. But by the time it will be too late for them to repent. Also in chapter 11, verse number 32, Krishna says, time I am the great destroyer of the worlds. And I have come here to destroy all people with the exception of you, the Pandavas. All the soldiers here on both sides will be slain. And in 10.35, Krishna says, of months, I'm Margasirsha, and of seasons, I'm the flower-bearing spring. So the significance of the month and the season, the spring season is explained in the purport. The beginning of the 6 seasons is actually marked by the arrival of the spring season. And therefore it refers to Krishna, as explained by Krishna himself in chapter 10 of the Gita. Then there's also this description regarding how the sun operates according to Krishna's instructions. The sun planet himself, the sun demigod, is also an expansion of Krishna. And the sun's movement along the 12 zodiac signs and the movement along Uttarayana, Dakshinayana, all those are related to the solar year. So those details can be found in the 5th canto. Actually, we have already seen these details when we were discussing our Madhyaloka topic. There are also these concepts related to time of the zodiac signs and how those zodiac signs are mapped into the nakshatras, the 27 nakshatras. Then it was stated that the sun represents the eyes of the Supreme Lord. So it is mentioned in the Brahma Samhita 5.52. Apart from that, it is also described in Canto 3, chapter 26, about how the pairs of eyes from the Virat Rupa represent the sun god. Okay, now regarding the calculation of the Chaturyugas, we have also seen these details in many of our previous sessions. By human calculation, 1,000 ages taken together form the duration of Brahma's 1 day, and such also is the duration of his night. So this refers to the 1,000 Chaturyugas or Divya Yugas. Every Chaturyuga refers to the cycle of these 4 yugas. So we have also seen these calculations in many of our previous sessions. So the basic measure to be remembered is the duration of Kali Yuga, 432K, meaning 432,000 times 1. That is the duration of Kali Yuga. So to know the duration of Dwapara, Treta, and Satya is simply to multiply by 2, 3, and 4. So the entire cycle is actually 10 times 432K, meaning 4.32 million. That is the duration of one Chaturyuga according to our human calendar. So the day of Brahma is equal to 1000 Chaturyugas. So 1000 times 4.32 million human years is equal to 4.32 billion human years. The night of Brahma is also equal to 4.32 billion human years. So one full day of Brahma is equal to 8.64 billion years. The total lifespan of Brahma is 100 years times 360 days times 8.64 billion human years, which is equal to 311 trillion and 40 billion human years. This is based on our human year calendar. And there's also this calculation based on the demigod years. Again, the same formula can be applied, just the factor is different. When we calculate based on human years, the factor is 432,432K. In demigod years, the factor is 1,200. And then just by plugging in the demigod year factor, we can get the same figure when we map it back to human years. And in chapter 11 of the 3rd canto, it is also stated that each Manu enjoys a life of 71 sets of 4 millenniums, meaning 71 Chaturyugas. The reign of every Manu is 71 Chaturyugas. There are 1000 Chaturyugas in one day of Brahma. So meaning every Manu reigns for 71 Chaturyugas. So in 1000 Chaturyugas, there are 14 Manus. In the 3rd chapter of Bhagavatam, in 1st canto, it talks about it is titled Krishna is the source of all incarnations. So in that chapter, we have also seen that there are 6 categories of incarnations of Krishna, out of which the Manvantara incarnation is one. Manvantara is actually the period of during which every Manu rules. So Manvantara refers to this period of 71 Chaturyugas. So there is one Manu who rules during that period. So there are 14 Manus in one day of Brahma. So it is actually there are actually 420 Manus in the month of Brahma. And there are 5040 Manus in 1 year of Brahma. And therefore, there are 504,000 Manus throughout the lifespan of Brahma, which is 100 years of the lifespan of Brahma. So these are the 14 Manus. Actually, during every Manvantara, there is a particular incarnation of Krishna who also arrives. But that incarnation of Krishna is actually distinct from the Manu who rules during that Manvantara. For example, Lord Yajna is the Manvantara avatar of Krishna, who became the grandson of Swayambhuva Manu. Swayambhuva Manu was ruling during the first Manvantara. And during that Manvantara, Lord Yajna, that is the incarnation of Krishna, arrived as the grandson of Swayambhuva Manu. There were Lord Yajna was born as the daughter, was born to the daughter of Swayambhuva Manu, meaning he was the grandson of Swayambhuva Manu. He was the son of Akuti. And the Ishopanishad prayers were actually recited by Swayambhuva Manu in praise of Lord Yajna. So like that, there is one particular Manvantara avatar during each Manvantara under the different Manus. So now at present we are under the Vaivasvata Manu during his reign. So these are the list of the 14 Manus. This can be found in the purport of 1.3.5 of Bhagavatam. So we have seen how the Divya Yugas, the Manvantras, the Kalpas, and the entire life of Brahma, how these different periods of time are interrelated. We, according to our human calendar or the solar years, we have our own measurements of time, starting from day, month, year, and then it is also mentioned. It is also measured in the in terms of demigod years, and then it goes up to the Divya Yugas or the Chatur Yugas. So 71 Chatur Yugas taken together form one Manvantara. 1000 Chatur Yugas form one day of Brahma, which is known as Kalpa. Then the entire lifetime of Brahma is up to 100 years of Brahma. But in the Gita, it is also stated that at the beginning of Brahma's day, all living entities become manifest from the unmanifest state, and thereafter, when the night falls, they are merged into the unmanifest again. So this is the period when the Garbhodaka ocean water rises up to Brahma's abode, but still Brahma stays alive there. It's just that during the night of Brahma, the portion below Brahma's abode becomes unmanifest. Then during the day of Brahma, everything becomes manifest again. Again and again, when Brahma's day arrives, all living entities come into being, and with the arrival of Brahma's night, they are helplessly annihilated. So throughout the lifespan of Brahma, this cycle of the material universe becoming manifest and unmanifest, it keeps repeating throughout the 100 years of Brahma. But even the sad fact for Brahma is that even his life comes to an end after 100 years, meaning after that 311 trillion and 40 billion years, according to our human years. Even after that, even Brahma has to die. So that is also stated in Gita and Bhagavatam. So we also saw from one of our previous sessions titled Param Satyam. We saw the qualities of Krishna, the hierarchy of how Krishna Tattva is the topmost Tattva, and Vishnu Tattva is below Krishna Tattva, and then below that we have Shiva Tattva and Jiva Tattva below that. Brahma represents the complete form of Jiva Tattva, and Shiva Tattva is actually the link between Jivas and Vishnu Tattva and beyond. So even if we develop all the good qualities to become as qualified as Brahma, we will become the topmost Jiva Tattva. However, even after achieving that exalted position, we still have to die. We are still trapped in the cycle of Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi. And that's why even for Brahma, it is important for him to continue his practice of Krishna consciousness, regardless of the fact that he is the topmost living entity in this material universe. So following the footsteps of Brahma in Satyaloka, all the other sages in the lower planets, meaning the planets below Satyaloka, like Mar, Jana, Tapa, all the sages in those planets, they also follow the footsteps of Brahma, and they are also engaged in devotional service. Now, we know that demons like Hiranyakashipu and Ravana got boons from Brahma and Shiva, but the most amusing part is that these fools were actually asking for boons from Brahma and Shiva, who themselves are the devotees of the Supreme Lord. So these fools actually asked for boons from the devotees of the Supreme Lord to fight against the Supreme Lord. So these were such these two were such Well, these were the finest breed of fools, like these two demons. And this foolishness is like it can be equated to say purchasing weapons from Israel to attack Israel, or like purchasing submarines from France to fight with France. So they were such fools that they were asking for boons from the exalted devotees of the Supreme Lord to actually fight against the Supreme Lord. So these were such fools, and there are many other fools who are following the footsteps of these fools. There are many fools in Kali Yuga who glorify Ravana, but of course, it's their choice. Krishna never interferes in the minute independence of all living entities. So it is entirely up to those fools to remain fools by following the footsteps of their foolish idols. But we can always be engaged in our practice of Krishna consciousness, and it is especially important for us to realize the importance of time, about how time subdues all of us, and therefore it is even more important for us as we keep aging. It is even more important for us to intensify our sadhana so that we can go to Goloka, back to Godhead. So that's all for today's session. Thanks for joining, and any questions or comments?
Such a wonderful presentation, Prabhu. Very nice. Very nicely presented.
Thank you, Ru.
Fantastic.
So what do
Really
you mean
fantastic.
what do you mean by influence of fiery god?
Pardon?
You know, you pass away in Uttarayana
Huh?
under the influence of fiery god.
It is stated that those are the periods during the entire year, but it is summarized by Krishna that those who live during certain periods, they can actually attain the supreme abode. But you will also see in the Gita chapter 8, Krishna actually gives all these descriptions regarding how the mystics, those who are actually this time of departure, it applies to those who are engaged in Dhyana Yoga, the mystics. However, in Gita 8.27, Krishna says that it doesn't matter for the devotees who are engaged in Bhakti Yoga. So it is the general perception that for those mystics who are engaged in Dhyana Yoga, it applies to them all these rules like the time of departure. But in 8.27, Krishna says that it actually doesn't matter for those who are engaged in Bhakti Yoga. So that is also the important purport of that chapter when Krishna talks about the time of departure. Anything else?
Is it that
Yeah.
the influence of fiery god means that means it's during that Agni Nakshatra. That means when the time is can we understand that way? Is it by Agni Nakshatra? Because the Prabhu asked, what does it mean by fiery god?
Yeah, that's my question, Prabhu.
So you say under the fiery god. So is it that the soul lives according? I mean, during that Agni Nakshatra.
That one comes only once in a year, Prabhu.
Yes.
So I still don't get a meaning of fiery god, Prabhu.
Fiery god, huh? Yes.
Under the influence of fiery god, Sukla Paksha, in the bright time of the day.
Sukla Paksha is Sukla means day.
Yeah, but the fiery god part I didn't understand.
So what is the purport again, Prabhu? I mean, how the thing comes?
It is mentioned in 8.24.
Okay.
Those who know the Supreme Brahman attain that
Okay.
supreme by passing away from the world during the influence of the fiery god. In the light,
Influence of the fiery god means that means it says during the daytime.
the verse starts with Agni Jyoti Aha Shukla.
Agni Jyoti Shukla.
Mm.
Okay.
Meaning
All right.
that influence of the fiery god, meaning that influence of the Agni Dev.
Okay. What is Prabhupada's purport on that?
In 8.24, purport, when fire, light, day, and the fortnight of the moon are mentioned, it is to be understood that over all of them, there are various presiding deities who make arrangements for the passage of the soul.
Okay. That means the influence. That means the influence of Agni. Agni means that means
Agni Dev.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that means when the thing is under the influence of Agni Dev,
Yeah.
and daytime, and during that first fortnight, that means during the Valarpara, I think. So that's auspicious time to leave the body. Is that so, Prabhu?
Yeah.
In the purport?
Yeah, all the timings mentioned in 8.24.
Or timing, the auspicious timing to leave the body.
Yeah, these are regarded auspicious as mentioned in 8.24.
Yes.
8.25 is regarded as the inauspicious ones.
That means?
Yeah, in 8.25.
25. What is the inauspicious time?
It is the opposite, like Krishna Paksha.
Krishna Paksha, that means dark. Paksha means dark. Krishna means dark.
Yeah. Yeah, it is found in chapter 8 towards the end. Yeah, but still, Krishna also mentioned, he gives all this description, and then in 8.27, Krishna says that for devotees, they don't have to bother about all these timings.
Yes, devotees have no worries; they can die anytime.
Yeah. So
like
so we don't have to be have to be obsessed with all these moments.
So that means the fiery god means during that Agni, that means the influence of Agni. That means Agni is only influence during the daytime. And Sukla Paksha, Sukla means bright fortnight. So that means Valarparai. That means when the moon is waning. Then so this is the auspicious time for the yogis to leave the body.
Valarparai, waxing moon.
Valarparai. So like example, like how Bhishma decided the time of death. That means he waited for all this kind of auspicious time, then he left the body.
No, in Bhishma's case, it doesn't matter regarding the timing, because he was looking at Krishna face to face. That itself is the most auspicious thing.
Yes, correct. What I mean is, he said that when the proper time arrived, so he stayed into Krishna and left the body. You know, in Bhagavatam, it says that what they call the time that when the proper time arrives, the auspicious time arrives. So he just put his eyes concentrated into the beautiful form of Krishna, and he left his body. So that means he's what they call Mahajan, so he can decide the time of leaving the body. So like this kind of auspicious moment is for those who are karma kandis, and also that Dhyanis, and the one who would like to do this Dhyana yoga meditation. So they can choose the time to die. So they usually like to choose this kind of time to leave the body.
Yeah.
But for devotees, doesn't matter if Sukla Paksha or Krishna Paksha, whatever it is. So at any moment, even if the devotee leaves the body at night, still it is considered very auspicious.
Yeah, actually, for us, especially Kali Jivas, we don't really have to bother about all these timings.
Exactly. But if you notice one thing,
don't have any control.
Yes, correct. If you notice one thing, nowadays, if you see the time of death, if you see, if you hear someone pass away, it is very common people to leave the body at night. If you have noticed that, if you see, oh, the person passed away, or what time he died, or 2 o'clock in the morning, or 12 o'clock, or 3 o'clock, or 11 o'clock. Usually, people are leaving the body at night, because these are the people, when they leave the body, they definitely will return back, right? Yeah.
No, but,
so that is
but returning back itself is not a bad thing. What? Because in chapter 6 also Krishna says they might return with a better position still, like being born in a Brahmana family.
No. I'm not saying about them. I'm saying about the normal people, karmis. The normal common people, the non-devotees, who have no time for Krishna, but they are engaging in sense gratification. So these are the people usually we see that it's very common for the death happen at night. If you have noticed, lah.
Yeah, but
You
these
can ask
are
Dr. Vaishnava Krupa. He's a medical doctor. So what do you think, doctor? What is the usual time of living? It's quite common, right, for people to die at night?
Yeah, Prabhu, you're true. Most of them die in the night or very early in the morning.
It's quite common, huh? Yes. So that's the thing, lah.
But Prabhu, recently this Mataji,
Anybody inside?
Yeah, nobody there. It was bad.
Yes.
This Mataji who passed away on Ekadashi day, actually that was also a Shukla Tithi.
Yes. Shukla Tithi, and she passed away at around 11:50. Just 5 minutes to 12.
Yeah, but regardless of the time, she passed away in Shukla Paksha, so that itself.
Yes. Correct. But if she returns, definitely she'll return as a devotee.
Yeah.
Yes. So anyway, you said a very nice discussion. So Vaishnava Kripa Prabhu. So how do you understand, Prabhu, that fiery God means it's all under the influence of light?
Very clear.
So it's all basically it's all bright situation. That means they don't die at night in darkness. So it's like that. So as a devotee, we have a big advantage. Very nice discussion. The topic that you choose, Dinesh, is amazing topic. Amazing topic. So then, what will be your topic next? So today you spoke about Kāla. Then the next will be.
Yeah, every week after every class, I'll be having this anxiety about the next topic. So I'll be spending the weekend thinking about the next topic, and then somehow I need to prepare by Monday evening. I need to start preparing the next slides.
Great.
It's okay if any of you, if you have any suggestions, you can just DM me on WhatsApp.
No, I think this is a very nice topic because he's speaking about the 5 elements of Bhagavad Gita. So now you spoke about Kāla. Then you can speak about all the other 4 elements, lah. 1 week, 1 element. Maybe you can speak about Prakriti, because that day you spoke about the universal, Prakriti or Karma. That would be very nice.
Prakriti, mostly we have covered quite a lot.
Yes, we have covered a lot, yeah. All right. And anyway, next week, Thursday, there'll be an initiation ceremony. So Thursday classes will be, the Bhagavad Gita class will be Zoom live, that Maharaj is giving initiation. That means live from ISKCON Ipoh. So the class will be by him. Then Friday, I think, yes, Friday you can do the thematic studies. Yes, no problem.
But next Friday is 23rd, right? 23rd also we have something, right?
No, 23rd, it is in that Mataji's house. in that the Chinese Mataji taking initiation, they are doing installation, the deity installation in her house. Yeah, so that is depends like if any devotees want to go there or what.
Okay.
That is not in the temple, it's in their house in Gunurapat. So Thursday will be the temple program, the initiation program.
Okay.
Anyway, no problem. So wonderful. I'm just mesmerized. Very nice, nicely presented.
So to all the other devotees, if you have any suggestions for topics or if you have any comments regarding my teaching, you can DM me also. So anything else?
I think that's all.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
All right.
Hare Krishna.
Take care.